Hey, gang's all here, right? Okay.
Yeah, right.
They go ahead and call our council assembly to order, and I want to recognize Councilor DiPaolo for a prayer and for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Today, I just ask that we offer a moment of silence for all those who continue to suffer in the wars ongoing throughout the world. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good afternoon, folks. At this point, I'd like to recognize Councilor Duff for a motion to record advice and consent for the financial warrant.
So move, Governor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Jacobs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I'd like to recognize Councilor Jacobs for a motion to record advice and consent for the pending list of notaries public.
Sorry, that's me.
You're out.
It's always the.
All right.
Fire alarm.
Better you than the fire alarm. Okay, so once again, I'd recognize Councilor Jacobs for a motion to record advice and consent for the pending list of notaries public. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor DiPaolo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. I'd like to recognize Councilor Kennedy for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Leo Fama II to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court.
So move, Governor.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Ferreira.
Want to,
Under discussion, Councilor Devaney.
I've seconded, and he is outstanding. Good. You're bringing good people in, so keep them coming.
Will do. Thank you very much, Councilor Devaney. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor DiPaolo.
Yes.
Councilor Jacobs.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Devaney.
Yes.
Councilor Duff.
Yes. 7 members voting, 7 in the affirmative. The matter carries. Next up, I'd like to recognize Councilor Iannella for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Marjorie Tynes to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court.
Thank you. So moved.
Motion made by Councilor Iannella. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by everybody. Councilor DiPaolo. Any questions, comments, or discussion on this?
Just great.
Awesome. Thank you. Seeing none, I'd ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Councilor DiPaolo.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Councilor.
Yes.
Councilor Devaney.
Yes.
Councilor Iannella.
Yes.
Councilor Duff.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
7 members voting, 7 in the affirmative. The matter carries. Next up, I'd like to recognize Councilor Devaney for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Gabrielle R. Wolohojian to the position of Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court.
Thank you for this opportunity, Lieutenant Governor.
Can you make that motion, Councilor?
Pardon?
Is that a motion you're making this motion? Yes, and is there, just let me get a second under discussion.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Second the motion.
Seconded by Councilor Duff. Under discussion, Councilor Devaney.
For this opportunity to speak before I make the motion. In my 25 years, I have never seen such media attention to any nominee that has ever come before me. And I want to thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for the honor of co-chairing the hearing for Judge Wolohojian. As her district counselor, I chair at her hearing. So 16 years ago, I chaired her hearing for the appeals court. She was the most outstanding nominee ever before me for the appeals court. She has changed case law that's 100 years old. She has a program to mentor the people, the judges coming in. There's so much more I could say about that. And I guess what I want to say is that I welcome the media, and we don't get them. And I have been asking, please investigate our nominees, report on them, come to our hearings. And it doesn't happen. And I want to welcome them, please. Okay. So I have seen in the past, but people don't know, we vote we have a hearing first, and then a week later, we have this public assembly where we vote for that person. I have been here when we didn't have a hearing for someone. 63 years we're mandated to have hearings. Didn't have a hearing. At the public assembly, council voted. I voted no. So I'm just saying, there's so much that goes on in the media, never covers that stuff. And I just want to say that this person has given so much to the appeals court and the mentors. I have never seen so many people in the auditorium, and I have chaired the highest court nominees, Judge Gantz, Judge Sossman, and others. They came, I got calls from retired judges 23 years ago, 21 years ago, someone who was in New York. I mean, these people all respected her so much and told me about how they interacted with her through the years. I never heard that in 25 years. I never got the calls that I had. Yeah, there were some people that were opposed, but not on her qualifications, on her integrity, and what she has brought to the court. She is going to be a great loss on the appeals court, believe me, because she has mentored so many people and has brought so many programs. And I just thank you for this time. And I could say so much more, but I'll bore everybody to death. But so I am going to make the motion to nominate Gabrielle Wolohojian, judge, to the Supreme Judicial Court.
Thank you, Counselor Devaney. I believe Counselor Duff has seconded that motion. Any other comments or questions by members of the council? Counselor Jacobs.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying how much I do respect and have a great deal of admiration for the many, many nominees that we've received to date. But I do want to express some of the concerns that have continued to trouble me in this nomination process. We share values, myself and this administration, around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And fully focusing on the process itself, putting aside the candidate for the moment, the nominee for the moment, but just fully looking at the process, I have struggled with a sense that the process itself was lacking in those values. In terms of diversity, my perception is that it was a very small and insular, like-minded group, lacking diversity in thought, but also in regional representation. In terms of equity, again, the regional inequity from the perspective of the counselor representing Western Massachusetts. And from an inclusion standpoint, it just felt very exclusionary in that you couldn't have a more insider nominee. And so I have concerns about that in terms of how it might dissuade people from applying who are not inside a network like that. I continue to have some concerns around the recusal situation. But I will say that I've received many, many communications. I think we all have. I've had calls, I've had texts, I've had emails, I've had snail mail. And for me, it's been a very mixed set of communications. Many people have written in support and have underscored the qualifications. But in my district, I've received as many calls and emails underscoring the disappointment that once again there's a vacuum at the SJC from Western Mass and Central Mass that is longstanding, and other concerns as well about the impact on the court's integrity, our highest court. The last thing I will say is that I don't want to invalidate the enormous qualifications of this candidate. I think it goes unimpeachably. She has a fantastic resume and experience. I do have a concern about her as well. And the concern really is from, I talked to her in depth, and my perception is that, you know, she has breathed rarefied air from the time she was young, education, and through her career. And my perception from that is she intellectualizes the marginalized community's struggle in a way that it feels very much a bubble of privilege and detached from the struggle itself. So I do have a concern about whether justice is best represented through that lens. But that is my only hesitation about the candidate herself. I'm really more coming from a place of concern around the process and the implications and the appearance that got us here today. And for all of these reasons, today I will be voting no.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor DiPaolo?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. In my time on this council, I've accumulated more no votes than any of my colleagues. And each vote was because in the totality of the circumstances, I felt that I couldn't support the nominee. In some cases, my subjective judgment, which is of course not the objective truth, was that I've seen nominees who I felt were underqualified or unqualified, or that they were being put into position because of political favors or political fundraising skills. I never saw scrutiny or attention brought to those nominees as I have this nominee. And so the discourse around this nominee has bothered me so much. I just briefly want to speak to it. When this nomination was announced, in some corners, the public discourse jumped right over this nominee's impeccable, unquestioned experience, her qualifications, her pedigree, her temperament, her reputation earned over a decade on the appeals court, writing hundreds of appeals decisions. The narrative in some places jumped right to a salacious storyline designed to raise alarms. And on the surface level, it did. But we're not here to rest on the surface level. We are here to conduct diligence and dig deeply into each nominee's qualifications. And so, like many other nominees, the nominee came to Worcester to visit me in my office, and we had a long-ranging conversation. One of the things that I spoke with her about was my concern that we ensure that under the Massachusetts Constitution and in Massachusetts courts, we continue to uphold the rights and privileges that appear to be at risk on the national level. That is important to me because I do not want the government concerning itself with a woman's health care or her bodily autonomy. And I'll take it a step further. I don't want the government concerning itself with a woman's past, emphasis on past, relationship choices. And I'd ask, when do we stop policing a woman's body? How many years back do we have to go to stop policing women? And to those who tell me that a relationship that ended years ago should be disqualifying for this position, I would ask them, should I advise my smart, confident, and maybe one day ambitious daughters to never date an ambitious person because years later it might disqualify them from a position that they have worked their whole lives to deserve? And so for those reasons, I'm disappointed with the public discourse around this nomination, and I look forward to voting yes to support this nominee. I think she will be an outstanding justice on our SJC. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DiPaolo. Others, Councilor Kennedy.
The Constitution does not require any process in place prior to a nomination taking place. The Constitution simply says that the governor shall nominate with the advice and consent of the governor's council. The process that counts is the process that happens in this room when we vet a nominee. And our role is a very narrow one. It's to determine if the person who is sitting there is qualified for the position. The governor can nominate whomever she chooses. And then it's our job to decide if that person's qualified. I talked about all the emails and snail mails and text messages and phone calls I got about this nominee, and every single one of them felt she was qualified. The ones that had issues with it was about the process, and that was probably 1% of those phone calls. There's no question, and no question in my mind, this nominee is qualified for that job. period. Counselor Duff and I sat down with her when there were 5 openings. I knew nothing about her relationship with the governor at that time, past or present. And we encouraged her to apply some 7, 8 years ago because we thought she was phenomenal. And we were looking for diversity on the bench and somebody who was really, really qualified. And we thought that 7 or 8 years ago, and nothing's changed in terms of that. I have never asked a nominee anything about their personal life, and I never will.
Thank you, Counselor Kennedy. Any others? Counselor Ferreira.
Thank you. Because I hail from the South Coast, I asked the nominee to come down to Fall River, and she did a couple of weeks ago, and I spent hours with her talking about who she was as a person, what she wrote as decisions, what her background was. She's, we all know her stellar education from Oxford and Columbia, was editor of the Law Review and Rutgers. Then I wanted to digest her 900 opinions that she wrote. So I put it into AI and it didn't do anything for me. So I particularly asked her, because I spent 30 years in law enforcement, about decisions that she wrote involving public safety. All about having an orderly society, not a police state, but we have to be safe, because if we're not safe, nothing else counts in life. And I'm pleased to report that she sent me a bunch of decisions that she wrote. And they were fair to the police and they were fair to defendants. And I got letters written from somebody who did hundreds of appeals representing criminal indigent defendants. He never won one in front of the judge, but said what a stellar judge she would make. At the end of the day, I do believe that she's a very, very well-qualified person. The governor went on a limb to say she's the most qualified person in the state. And I thought that was a little like, I don't know. But you know what? I do agree with the governor. I think she is. When you have 25 people from the appeals court, judges, coming here saying that she's the best in their court, she's never been tipped on any decision she's ever written. That speaks volumes. So I judge her on her own merits, and whatever relationship she had with whomever is actually irrelevant, for this position. And I'm proud to vote for her today. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Ferreira.
Thank you. First of all, the Constitution doesn't require us to have hearings, but over 60, 65 years ago, it was established that there would be hearings, and then we would vote the next week at the Assembly. So I do want to say that I guess I probably have talked with her more than anyone. Because I talked their ears off, and this was when she came before me in the appeals court and when she came before me now. And I talked with her. She had recused herself when the governor had been Attorney General. And I wanted to know about recusal on matters now. And I was, I was completely, satisfied with her, and she is respectful and she's honest. And, and she said that, those matters she'll take up individually. And I'm not going to go over that old. But I want to say that in Governor Baker's administration, the Judicial Nominating Committee, Screening Committee found her number 1. The Supreme Judicial Court Screening Committee, number 1. The Bar Association, number 1, but she didn't get the appointment. So I think that elephant in the room is affecting why she didn't get it. And I can't think of anyone that is more qualified. And when I talk to all those wonderful judges that I respect and I voted for, and they filled that auditorium, I've been here 25 years and I have presided over that court, and I have never seen anything like this. So I'm sorry that she had to go through this. I don't think anyone should really. We're talking about 2024, and what have you done? And if you look at, and I'm not going to go through it, what she has done on the appeals court made such a change that anyone that would disqualify this person who will be so valued on that court. So I have said too much today, and that's all I'm going to say now.
Thank you, Counselor Devaney. Any others before we call the roll? Okay, I'd ask the secretary, we have a motion that's been made by Counselor Devaney, seconded by Counselor Duff, and I'd ask our secretary to please call the roll.
Jacobs? Ferrer?
Yes.
Counselor Devaney?
Yes.
Iannella?
Yes.
Malcolm?
Yes.
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 7 members voting, 6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The matter carries. We have one other item on our agenda before us is a reappointment to the Office of Public Administrator. I'd like to recognize Councilor Ferreira for a motion to record advice and consent for the reappointment of Thomas R. Hunt to the position of Public Administrator for Bristol County.
I am proud to make that motion. He has served admirably as an administrator for many years. Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded by Councilor Devaney. All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. The matter carries. And with that, our business is concluded. Thank you all.